Over here in England, we might have spent the entire summer talking about Isak, Wirtz, Ekitike, but across Europe, although it has been quieter, there has been some excellent business too. Today, I'm going to rank my top 10 transfers completed in the rest of Europe. Let's get into it. In at 10, let's talk about Dean Huijsen's £50 million move to Real Madrid. Now, Trent Alexander-Arnold might have been the more widely publicised, the more widely talked about move over here, but I think Dean Huijsen could prove to be as crucial or potentially even more. That's because last year Real Madrid were fundamentally undermined by defensive injuries. Carvajal missed over 50 games. Alaba and Militao missed over 45. Even Tony Rudiger missed 15. That meant Tchouaméni had to play 25 games at centre-back, not his natural position, and Raul Asensio was thrust into the limelight. I think it's fair to say he proved to be not quite ready. So Dean Huijsen and Trent Alexander-Arnold massively helped them in the defensive department. Dean Huijsen has had a really interesting career path so far. He came through at Malaga, he then joins Juventus, and in the second half of 23-24 he goes on loan to Roma, which is where people really start to pay attention to him. In May 2024, Roma's former sporting director, Thiago Pinto, joins Bournemouth. Now he, no doubt on his recommendation, uses those contacts to bring Dean Huijsen to Bournemouth for just £13 million, and a year later they flipped him for £37 million profit, and it's not difficult to see why. He was absolutely exceptional last year, particularly with the ball at his feet. He completed 41 progressive carries. That was the same as Newcastle's Joe Linton in that really physical, very all-action Newcastle midfield. He also created 15 chances from centre-back. That was the same as Omar Marmoush did for Man City in the back half of last season. He's 6'5", he's only 20 years old, and with Alaba and Rudiger now deep into their 30s, this could prove to be a bit of a masterstroke not only in the short term, but particularly in the long term. What is also more satisfying for Real Madrid is the fact that Liverpool, Arsenal, Newcastle were in for him, and Real Madrid said, no, you're coming here. Dean Huijsen only wanted Real Madrid, and I think this could prove to be a masterstroke. Thank you so much for watching this video so far. If you're watching and you are not subscribed, what are you doing, guys? Hit that subscribe button. In at 9, let's talk about Milan's business, particularly their acquisition of Samuele Ricci. Now, Milan had a pretty dreadful 24-25. They finished 8th. That was their first season outside the top 4 since 2019-20. Their 63 points was their lowest points tally since 2015-16. They needed a big summer, and they've got one. I think their signings have generally been excellent, and there's a real cause for optimism now, having beaten Liverpool 4-2 in that pre-season friendly last week. It has to be noted that they have lost some big players. I think Tijani Reinders will be absolutely excellent for Man City. I think Theo Hernandez on his day, which probably didn't come around nearly enough last season. One of the best left-backs in the world, comfortably a top 5 at least. Going to Al Hilal, that's a big shame. But their incomings, I think, are really exciting. Pervis Estupiñán, if you keep him fit, that's a really nicely well-rounded left-back. And then Luka Modric, the 2019 Ballon d'Or winner, joining the 7-time European champions, the club that he supported as a boy. There's a lot of romanticism to that. But it's not just romanticism. Even though he's 39, Modric started 17 La Liga games last season, contributed 2 goals and 6 assists, proved to be really useful. The only players that contributed more in Real Madrid's squad in terms of assists were Jude Bellingham and Vinicius Jr., and they contributed 8. But I think the jewel in the crown in terms of their incomings is Samuele Ricci. You know, he may only be 23 years old, but he's already made over 200 career appearances, first for Empoli and then Torino, initially on loan, but for the last 3 years as a starter. His idol, Andrea Pirlo, he's deceptively strong, he's very able to wriggle out of tight spaces. I think he's got a very good long-range passing game as well, and I think he'll make a massive difference to Milan at the base of their midfield. Last season, his long-range pass completion rate, so passes over 30 yards, was 69%. That was only 1% less than Virgil van Dijk, who has the advantage of playing at the back for Liverpool with a lot more space in front of him than Ricci has faced in the congested midfields of Serie A over the last few seasons. He's also going to add so much grit and determination to this Milan midfield. His tackle success rate has never dropped below 64% in the last 3 seasons. It actually peaked at 78% in 22-23. For context, the only midfielder in Europe's top 5 leagues that topped that last season was Jeffrey Kondogbia at Valencia, who has been a very useful player over the years for Valencia. I think Ricci will prove to be an amazing signing for Milan, and I can't wait to watch him in action for the Rossoneri. In at 8, let's talk about Johan Bakayoko's bargain £19.1 million move to RB Leipzig. Look at the money spent by Premier League clubs on Noni Madueke this summer, on Anthony Elanga this summer, and you cannot tell me that Bakayoko is not one of the bargains of the year. He scored over 10 goals for PSV in the last 2 seasons. 14 goals in 23-24, dropping to 12 goals in 24-25. And yes, he wasn't at his absolute best last year for reasons I'll come on to, but this is a really exciting addition for the East Germans. 24-25 was undoubtedly a drop-off for Bakayoko. He went from being their 4th most used player in the league in 23-24 to their 13th. And a big part of that was Ivan Perisic joining the club on his return from injury. Contributed 11 goals and 6 assists. He's played 19 games off the right, Johan Bakayoko's position. He can't really play off the left, Johan Bakayoko. He can only really be used on the right. And they've got a plethora of other forwards to choose from. Luke de Jong, Goose Till, Malik Tillman, Noah Lang. And it was just really difficult for Bakayoko to establish himself. I wonder also, although I don't know for sure, whether he thought he was going to get a move in the summer of 2024 and was slightly lacking in motivation last season. On the basis of the eye test, he felt less involved, he felt less important, but actually his stats stayed at a pretty solid level. He went from 0.6 expected goals and assists per 90 to 0.58, not a massive drop-off whatsoever. It was really his dribbles where there was the biggest noticeable difference. His dribble success rate fell by 6%. And Leipzig need a new hero. Xavi Simons looks close to joining Chelsea. Yusuf Poulsen, long-time cult hero there, has left the club. Watch out also from an RB Leipzig perspective for Yan Diomande. He joined from Leganés and he looked really bright last season in limited minutes. I think he could be one of the unsung heroes of the season, but watch out for Johan Bakayoko as well. I'm backing him for a big campaign. In at 7, let's talk about Jonathan Burkhardt's £17 million move from Mainz to Eintracht Frankfurt. Now I think this could be a sensational move for Eintracht Frankfurt. They are signing a 25-year-old coming off a brilliant season. He scored 17 league goals for Mainz last year, helping them contend for Champions League football at points. That was only topped by Kane, Schick and Guirassy in the entirety of the Bundesliga, and it's a real feel-good story as well. This is a guy that missed close to a year of football with a serious knee injury that he suffered in 22-23, and it did take him a while to get back to his best, but last season his performances were so solid he broke into Nagelsmann's Germany squad. Look at Eintracht Frankfurt's record for developing strikers: Ekitike, Marmoush, Haller, Jovic, Andre Silva, Kolomwani. The list goes on, and I'm backing Burkhardt to be the next cab off the rank. Last season he averaged 0.63 expected goals per 90. That was only topped by 3 players in the Premier League: Haaland, Salah and Isak. Pretty elite company to stay in. And yes, he's not a massive shot taker, only around 3 per 90, but he's really clinical with the chances that he gets. Last season he was at 0.23 goals per shot. For context, Harry Kane was at 0.16. This guy has the potential to explode, I think, at Eintracht Frankfurt. He's a really clean ball striker. He's got excellent anticipation too in terms of where the ball's going to drop. And after losing Ekitike and Marmoush in back-to-back windows, Eintracht really need someone to come in and grab this team by the scruff of the neck. I wonder whether they could look at another striker or forward in Arno Calamundo as well. But for now, Jonathan Burkhardt, I'm backing you for a big campaign. In at 6, let's talk about Enzo Barrenechea's loan move from Aston Villa to Benfica. Now, Aston Villa have had a really quiet summer so far. They didn't sign Rashford, they didn't sign Asensio, and their only major arrivals so far have been Marco Bizot to back up goalkeeper, and Ozcan, a Turkish centre-back / left-back who was actually signed prior to the window starting. But Barrenechea is in a really interesting position. He was one of those signings that kind of happened last summer in that crazy period, in that PSR window where Villa signed Dobbin and Illing Jr. and Barrenechea, etc. And Barrenechea went on loan to Valencia last year and he really shone. He started 26 league games for a side that eventually finished 12th. He ranked 2nd for passes into the final third, and he also completed 68% of his long-range passes, which was more than the pass master Luka Modric. He also won 70% of his challenges and over 60% of his aerial duels. The guy can do it all. He's been signed by Benfica on loan, who'll be desperate for a huge campaign. They've lost out in the last 2 seasons to Sporting CP. With Victor Gyökeres gone, let's see if that continues. But Richard Rios has signed from Palmeiras. They've also signed Dedic from RB Salzburg, but it is a period of change. Angel Di Maria has left the club, Kochu too, who actually never really managed to reproduce his Feyenoord best over in Portugal, and they've also lost Alvaro Carreras to Real Madrid. But with Enzo Barrenechea playing in the centre of midfield, I back them to be able to get a lot closer to Sporting CP and actually beat them to the league this year. In at 5, it's Jonathan David. Someone has finally taken the plunge, and it's Juventus. They've signed him on a free. This is a guy that scored over 25 goals in all competitions for the last 3 seasons. His Champions League record really impressive. 10 goals and 2 assists in 18 Champions League games. He's got a phenomenal record of scoring in the league versus Lyon, versus Marseille, versus PSG, and for years now I've been questioning, why has no one taken the plunge on Jonathan David? Ultimately, I think it came down to the fact that he was too important to Lille. They were looking for a fee that a lot of clubs had some doubts around, but this is a really versatile player that can play on the right, he can play centrally as well. His scoring record's phenomenal, and he's always stepped up in the biggest games. He's scored versus Real Madrid, Atleti, Juventus, Dortmund, Liverpool in the Champions League. Last season, he created as many chances as Lautaro Martinez in Liga as Lautaro Martinez did in Serie A. He completed as many passes into the box as Paulo Dybala. I genuinely believe he's a player that makes teams and teammates better. Juventus have also signed João Mario, a really talented right back and right wing back from FC Porto for 12.6 million euros, and they've brought in Francisco Conceição for 32 million euros, which feels like a lot, but they have persuaded, once again, Juventus always manage to do this, they've persuaded FC Porto to let them pay it in 4 instalments. I actually think Juve, in terms of incomings at least, have had a really positive window. In at 4, let's talk about Alex Baena's £39 million move to Atletico Madrid. Now, I think this is really smart from Atletico Madrid's perspective. Alex Baena has been starting regularly for Villarreal for the last 3 seasons, and he's had a quite phenomenal last 12 months. In 23-24, he was La Liga's top assist provider with 14. He then gets included in Spain's squad for the Euros. He goes to the Olympics, he wins that. And in last season, in La Liga, he was included in La Liga's team of the season. He was one of the best players, not only in La Liga, but in the entirety of Europe. Last season, he contributed 7 goals and 9 assists in La Liga. That was only one fewer than Isco, who was absolutely phenomenal for Real Betis last year, and Jude Bellingham. He helped Marcelino's Villarreal finish 5th, and as usual, when a sort of outsider, let's say, or one of the smaller clubs, no disrespect to Villarreal, does qualify for the Champions League, because there was 5 spots in Spain last year, their best players get pilfered. Alex Baena's left, Tieno Barry's gone to Everton, but I'm backing Alex Baena to make a huge impact at Atletico Madrid. He created 95 chances in the league last year. That was the best record in Europe's top 5 leagues for a side that finished 5th in their own division. Absolutely remarkable, playing out on the left or playing more centrally as well. He averaged 0.41 expected assists per 90. That was 7th in Europe's top 5 leagues, put him comfortably between Kevin De Bruyne and Desiree Doué. What company to keep. He ranked 10th for progressive carries, so carries that go 10 yards towards the opponent's goal. That was only just less than Mateus Cunha, and he averaged 5.9 shot creating actions, so that's the shot or the pass before the shot, per 90, which was the same as Lamine Yamal. Throw in the fact that Julian Alvarez and Alexander Soroth have got their feet under the table firmly now, that they've also managed to sign David Hansko, Matteo Ruggieri, who else has arrived? Johnny Cardoso from Real Betis, Clement Longley, and there is a real expectation that Diego Simeone's side should and will get a lot closer to Real Madrid and Barcelona next season. In at 3, let's talk about Joan Garcia's £21.3 million move to Barcelona. Now, I think it's fair to say, and it's been clear for a while, that Marc-Andre ter Stegen, a little bit like his Germany teammate Manuel Neuer, has been in decline for a while. So in 22-23, he saved 85% of shots on target. He kept 26 clean sheets. It was absolutely remarkable. Phenomenal performance from him. But since then, he missed 19 games with injury the following year, 51 last year, and it's clear that he's not quite the goalkeeper he once was, and it's unfortunate that injuries have come so late in his career, but he's not quite what he was, I think it's fair to say. Last year, they had to bring out Wojciech Szczesny out of retirement, and whilst he really excelled, and massive credit for helping Barcelona win a domestic treble and get minutes away from a Champions League final, it was clear that Barcelona had to nail down a goalkeeper this summer. The club activated Joan Garcia's €25 million release clause in mid-June. Now, this seems like a really smart acquisition. Firstly, it's weakening Espanyol, their city rivals, and they are signing a goalkeeper that seems to have a massive future and a very good present right now. He actually only became Espanyol's first choice goalkeeper in March 2024, but he kept 12 clean sheets in 21 games to help Espanyol back to the top table. His performances were so good that year, as they got promoted out of the Segunda division, that he was named Player of the Month 3 consecutive months in a row and ended up being named their player of the season as well. In 24-25, he played every single minute for Espanyol and he saved 76% of shots on target, good enough for 5th in La Liga. He prevented 7.7 expected goals. That was 8th in Europe's top 5 leagues, and that is a figure that ter Stegen has topped once since 2017-18. Crucially though, he is very good with his feet and he's a very good shot stopper, but he's very, very good at claiming crosses. Last season, he claimed 64 crosses. That was the best in Europe's top 5 leagues, along with Zion Suzuki. So finally, Barcelona have got their man, and for a problem position for a number of seasons, they've now got one of Europe's most promising goalkeepers. I really do think it's one of the signings of the summer. In at 2, it's Edin Dzeko joining Fiorentina on a free. Now, Edin Dzeko is a complete legend. I don't care what you say. The guy has scored over 400 career goals. He's scored over 10 goals in a single season 17 times for 6 different clubs. This is the guy that helped Wolfsburg to a league title in 2008-09. He then had a massive role with Man City's sort of becoming the club that they are now today, not least in 2011-12. He then goes to Roma. He scores 39 goals in a single season for Roma. He joins Inter on a free. He makes an amazing impact there. And even in the last 2 seasons, he scored over 20 goals in each of them for Fenerbahce. Absolute legend. He might be 39. He might only be 11 months younger than Cristiano Ronaldo, but 21 goals and 8 assists in over 50 games for Fenerbahce last season. Absolutely phenomenal. The guy has played over 1,000 career games, but guess how many games he has missed with injury in the last 4 seasons? 4. And he's still very much at the top of his game. He's still very good at bringing others into play and creating chances for others. Last year, 0.34 expected assists per 90. That ranks him in the top 1% of forwards. He's very good at picking up the ball between the lines, over 8 progressive passes received. That's really, really strong as well. And Fiorentina feel like they're on the verge of something special. After back-to-back Conference League finals, they got knocked out in the semi-finals last year, but they've signed Fagioli, who made a big impact at Fiorentina last year. They've signed Gosens, who contributed 8 goals and 10 assists, back to his Atalanta best. And I think Edin Dzeko could be an amazing signing for Fiorentina, even if it's only for 1 or 2 seasons. In at 1, it's got to be Kevin De Bruyne to Napoli. I think this is absolutely sensational. I think it's going massively under the radar too. Napoli have had a brilliant summer. They brought in Sam Buchema from Bologna, the centre-back. They brought in Vanja Milinkovic-Savic, initially on loan with an obligation to buy from Torino. They brought in Lorenzo Luca. They brought in Noah Lang. But for me, Kevin De Bruyne, absolutely sensational signing. Yes, he's missed close to 50 games with injury in the last 2 seasons. But when he is fit, when he is on that pitch, absolutely remarkable player still. 6 goals and 8 assists last season. And he is joining a Napoli project that he was desperate to join. This is the city that he got married in. It's really, really special for him. There's a lot of romanticism. He's staying in Sky Blue, and I am backing him to absolutely kill it. Even last year, 0.42 expected assists per 90. That was only just less than Bradley Barcola. In terms of his expected goals and expected assists, he was at 0.68. That was the same as Jamal Musiala. That was better than Cole Palmer. This is a guy that when he is on the pitch can make your team better. And guess who else he's linking up with in Naples? His old buddy from Belgium, Romelu Lukaku. They have played together for the Red Devils 79 times. Kevin De Bruyne has assisted him 16 times in those games. He assisted him for 4 major tournaments in a row. Is there any wonder that Romelu Lukaku has scored 89 goals for Belgium when there is a player like Kevin De Bruyne making the whole team around him better? You know, I think is also going to thrive with Kevin De Bruyne's arrival. From that right half space, those whip deliveries in, Scott McTominay, people. Invest in Napoli, invest in De Bruyne. We are going back to back, people. So guys, that was my ranking of the best 10 transfers completed in Europe this summer so far. Which ones did you agree with? Which ones did you disagree with? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for all the support on my new YouTube channel so far. 3 videos down, plenty more to come. Let me know what topics you'd like me to cover next week in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, guys. As ever, lots of love.